On this episode of Star Trek Universe, Effie and I shall enter the gallery of an intergalactic court of the future, as James T. Kirk is accused of premature eject-ulation. Either because of negligence or malice. All rise!
Damn it.
We're reviewing Court Martial after these words from our vaguely altered ship computer banks. Welcome into Star Trek Universe, the podcast that has recently expanded to include this, a show about an old Star Trek fan watching, or I should say rewatching, Star Trek the original series with a brand new viewer of the Star Trek universe. My name is David C. Roberson. I'm the old man. Effie Ophelders.
And I am Yeah, I'm here.
I forgot you say your name.
Man. Yeah. I'm never sure whether to do it or be introduced. It is truly a thing. We have hundreds of episodes left to figure out.
I know. I'm sorry.
We'll get there.
I forget.
It's all right. It's all right. I'm like, are you setting me up to jump in now? Or no. It's just we have a natural talent for talking over each other. It is all right.
Yeah, I kind of like not having a plan for all of it, and just
sure.
I don't know.
We're going with the flow.
I don't like doing complete rote, let's say the same thing over and over again sometimes, because I feel like people just skip past it.
Yeah, I can't have that. Got to keep them on their toes, man.
Yeah, or at the very least on the tip of their dicks, if they have such devices.
Yeah, otherwise it
appendages.
Gets a bit tough, really. Yeah. I've tried, but I'm not able to do it anymore.
Planking on their clits. How about that? Look,
that should be more doable. Yeah. What are we talking about again today?
The synopsis for 115. Last episode I said 113. It is technically 113 because they didn't count the cage. We counted the cage, so that means that we're really on 115, Court Martial. The synopsis, very brief, once again from Memory Alpha. Kirk is accused of criminal negligence, causing the death of one of his subordinates, Lieutenant Commander Benjamin Finney, and is put on trial for his murder.
God rest his soul.
May God rest his Willem Dafoe-looking soul.
He did have a sharp jawline there.
He was the Green Goblin, for Christ's sake.
Pretty much. It worked for him.
For the sake of Christ.
For whose sake otherwise? Really? Why are we doing this podcast if not for his sake?
I have no idea.
I'm glad we got to the root cause of what we're doing here. That's right. That is always important to establish up front.
Yeah. So there are plenty of things I like about this episode and plenty of things I dislike about this episode. Did this story hold together for you at all? Really? For real?
I went with it, but now I'm very curious to see where your dislikes and your plot holes show up, because I was just sure, whatever. We're just going with it. The heartbeat thing was a fun gimmick in the sense where I'm there should be some technology probably to make that way easier, but it's you gotta have a big reveal with everyone in the same room, and it's fine. Right.
Even in current Star Trek, on the Enterprise 10, 15 years before this, they would just be able to be computer, where is Lieutenant Commander Finney or whatever? And
how many life signs on deck for? It shouldn't be that hard.
But I know they were on a budget. They were on a tight budget, and low hanging fruit out of the way first. White noise device. Even in 1967, we knew what a damn microphone was. I mean,
yes.
Put a microphone with some foil on it.
Yeah. I was like, why are we not calling this a mic? This is a mic. You're just and that's fine. That works. You can record the sound and exclude it from the whatever.
Like McCoy already had his little like flashy light salt shaker that he uses to scan people. Why couldn't he just like attune that? Why did we have to have like a big bulky looking piece of shit?
That's to scan people. It's not to actually, listen to sound.
Why?
You're not scanning for sound.
Why?
Too much writing effort. Come on.
But no, I feel like there is one. I feel like there are logic flaws, and maybe Finney had just gone insane. But like, what was like Finney's end game here? Because like he wasn't going to like be able to rise through the ranks once Kirk was. You've just faked your death, dude. You're gone. So
yeah.
So this
it was definitely
revenge.
just it is absolutely just to fuck with him. That seems to be the main motivation.
Yeah,
I'm mad at you people, so I'll blow you all up.
And it just got weird. And I know that there are weird things that happen with this episode, like in the script. Jamie Finney has that big 180 turnaround on Kirk where but originally she comes in and she's like, dude, I've decided you weren't doing this because I was reading my dad's old letters, and it seems like he might have been planning something. Like,
oh yeah, because that would have made sense.
Yeah. But I don't know why they didn't go that way. And then suddenly, like the lawyer, did you notice the lawyer just disappears? He just disappears.
Like, I'm gonna get Jamie, and we're gonna mention once that she's on board, but we're not gonna see either of them again. Yeah, it's just to be able to manipulate Finney, but at the same time, you could have just bluffed that she was on board, and that part was like, okay, was he not available to film for the last couple days or something? Like, come on, guys,
dude, they did like a huge like fighting sequence with Kirk and Finney, and then he just like punches him and it fades out, and then Kirk goes to like voiceover. He's like, Finney told me that after I beat him to death, Finney told me that he did the thing, and I crawled into the thing and did the thing. Cool.
Yeah. And because otherwise we would have had the whole of like him knowing to fix the thing.
Yeah.
We had to torture the sabotage out of him, I guess.
But they didn't show it because apparently there are deleted scenes or something of Jamie. She was supposed to have come into the engineering room and stopped it somehow. I'm not really sure how that was supposed to go down.
It sounds like there were a couple of more complicated versions that didn't work. Like, going into this, just it being named court-martial, I was like, we're gonna get a legal drama. That's good. Yeah. But then it really devolves at the end of like, okay, he's alive, that's fine, but now how do we get from there to happy ending is just a struggle. Yeah. Though I agree. There's some shit you have to really overlook in that department. Yeah. As soon as they're on the Enterprise again, it's like, what is going on?
Yeah. The move to the Enterprise is where the entire story breaks apart for me.
Yeah, I get that.
Up to that point, it's really good. It has a lot of really cool notions about like computer versus man. There's
interesting stuff. I like I can beat the computer at chess suddenly. Very cool reveal. Like it's fun that works. That's inventive. I like that.
I'm not sure why Finney altering things altering the logs.
The entire computer bank is apparently linked. I don't know. Why.
I don't know why that would be a thing, or why it would even occur to Spock to be like, let me go play chess and see if it's still working right. Like it should have been like one specific section of data in the Enterprise that Finney messed with.
Sure, but apparently that's the exact section that Spock has programmed his chess shit into.
Maybe?
I don't know why. No, but it is like I do get the idea of like, oh, it's impossible for Kirk to have done this. What are the alternatives? The computer is wrong. How do I determine if the computer is wrong? I test the computer against my own strength of mind. That's what Spock would do. Sure.
Yeah.
Why the computer works that way, the tech is beyond us. We don't understand their programming. It makes zero sense. It's fine. It's the 60s.
I'm willing to cede that. I know. It's just
like I can forgive that part where it's like, oh, you fuck with one part of the computer, you're gonna fuck with apparently the whole functioning of every program. Right. Whatever, sure.
That's
fun.
Hope going to warp suddenly isn't like dumping the warp core or something. Like just because you changed some stuff.
Yeah, but I'm sure the warp core hasn't been invented yet at this point in production.
No,
so we're fine.
I don't think. I think they had multiple cores maybe on the original series, but yeah, I don't know. That was weird to me, but I did like really love like I felt like I really wanted to. I wish it was more than like Finney's name was at the top of the duty roster for why he was in the ion pod. I wish it would have been like. Yeah. Oh,
I did make that choice, but it was fair and fine, and like there was a reason for it.
Right.
He was most qualified, whatever the fuck.
Right. Like I wish it had been like Sturgis is at the top of the duty roster, but he's in sick bay. Who should we get to replace him? Send Ben Finney down. So then it was his choice. And did he somehow subconsciously, maliciously do it?
Yeah.
Like because
am I an asshole?
Finney hated him, like I wanted more of a question of Kirk's morals and ethics, but
I get that because there was never really any doubt of like, did he like the worst it gets is like, did he press the wrong button? Like at that point, I'm like, is he just an idiot instead of is he mad at Finney? Because at no point was I like he hates Finney because Finney hates him, which is a stupid reasoning circle to begin with. When the lawyer says that, it's like, yeah, it's hypothetically possible that he hated him back, but also it's possible he didn't, so why are we entertaining this notion? What kind of court is this?
I've definitely wound up hating people just because they hated me.
Yeah, but see, Kirk is a better man than you.
Yeah, he is. hey, look. Oh, here's a part that I really loved, and this just proves how great Kirk was in this episode. I loved that this Commodore Stone was like, don't say anything. We're going to sweep this under the rug. You'll be fine. We'll get you a position outside of the thing. And Kirk is like, sweep it under the rug. Is that what you want to do? You just want to, he's like, if what happened is what you think, if what you think is what happened, I deserve to be punished. Yeah, I deserve to be punished. I want my court martial. I want it right now, Stone.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's some no, I get that. And that's, sorely lacking in other parts of law enforcement these days. So I appreciate that. It is a good attitude to have.
Yeah.
And also completely understandable. If you didn't do it, you would be like, no, I want to keep my job. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well,
if your job is as cool as his at least.
For Kirk though, just the idea that he's done this. He goes in the lounge and everyone treats him like shit. People who have known him for years. And
you want to clear your fucking name.
Yeah, they're all angry with him for smearing the service.
Yeah.
And like Stone says, no starship captain has ever been put on trial before, and he doesn't want Kirk to become the first.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that the prosecutor is this former love of Kirk
worked well.
Who is and they didn't downplay her. They didn't act like she was stupid or anything.
No, and there was no point at which you were like, oh, she's making it easy. She's going easy on him. None of that. There wasn't a point where it like lingered on, oh, now she has to make the choice whether or not to use this piece of evidence or something. No, it was just, no, she's doing her fucking job and she's crushing him.
Yeah. If there was like a moment of impropriety there, it was where she's like, look, they are going to come at you this way and they're going to kill you. And I can recommend a lawyer. Well, why can't you do it? Because I am the prosecution.
Yeah.
Like,
and all she says is, you don't stand a chance, which in itself is not much of a giving away of the prosecution's arguments. Because we already knew they were going to use the computer, so.
And they did a fantastic job of making her seem deeply competent, deeply professional. And, Yeah, I liked
She wasn't 17 for once. I appreciate the kiss was also less forceful than normal. I appreciate this romance.
Yeah, that's I really liked her. I really liked their relationship, and I love that at the end, like they kiss, and then he goes back to the chair, and he's like, "She's a very good lawyer." and Spock is like, "Yeah,
No, I get it.
Also,
and they're both, and that's funny because it comes after the like, oh, let's kiss and try and see if anything changes in terms of your command. Like there is that toying with oh, would that ruin my status? No, they still respect the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And then there's McCoy and Spock just standing there like, we're standing straight. This is fine.
No.
It is fun.
Especially going back, like going in order, like we've been doing, and we've seen so many episodes now where he's talked about like not being able to show that kind of affection in front of the crew because they would disrespect him. And like we're seeing a little break in Kirk's demeanor. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
They already just thought I was a murderer for a second, and I beat the rap. So you know what? I'm tonguing down a brawn on the bridge.
I'm fine. Yeah, I fought a legal battle because the ship is my most important woman. Fine, they'll live. You know.
He's like, I just beat the system. The person coming after me was the woman I'm kissing.
So really,
conquest of the highest regards.
Yeah. This should give me more respect, honestly. Like you went in with her trying to ruin you, and you came out just making out. That's a good deal. Really good day.
No. I feel dirty saying making out though, because it does seem like they had a real affection for each other. You know,
yeah, but people who care about each other can make out, right?
Yeah,
Have I been doing it wrong all these years?
Yes, you have. You've been completely diminishing the true emotional
true
value.
Affection.
Yeah,
right. I should have been more kosher about my and sparing in my kisses. Yes.
Yeah.
That's sad to find out. I should call my ex. All of them. All the exes.
You're like, I should have kissed you very gently and then gotten in a turbo lift and left. and
then seen you in a couple years because that's true love, damn it.
No, I really enjoyed her. I loved the guy, the Cogley lawyer who was like, not
that was a fun
homogenized,
character.
Pasteurized, synthesized.
Yeah.
His logic doesn't hold
up. He was delightful. Oh, not at all. He's a weird character, and it's very much like, well, I mean, to an extent, it is interesting because he's like, oh yeah, the computer can synthesize just a gathered study of like all, like we'll summarize all the literature for you, but really studying the actual literature yourself, going back to the source, that's interesting. And to have, like, that compares very well to the current chat GPT type AI large language model shit, where it is very much a case of, oh yeah, it can summarize all that nonsense for you, but you don't know if it's correct. You should still probably check out if it ripped this from a Wikipedia page that made no sense. Like, sources matter. Yeah. And they should probably be mentioned and like go back to that book that actually holds the case law.
Yeah.
So that part made sense. Then during the court case, you have to have a lawyer just yell about the importance of our humanity, of course, because the computer is apparently infallible to in the eyes of the court, which is weird in and of itself.
And it is fun.
That no one is like, it could be doctored with.
It is fun because Cogley in the court says, "I speak of rights. A machine has none. A man must." And it's a nice little. Since this is Star Trek's first legal episode, it's kind of fun because one of their most famous legal episodes comes in The Next Generation, where they are literally debating the rights of Data, who is a machine.
Of course, yeah.
Like, is a machine any less sentient?
Where do you draw that line?
Yeah, they get deep into that shit. So I love that.
That's fun. Yeah.
I loved that they were kind of going that way here. Like, a man has a right to face his accuser. His accuser is the Enterprise.
That's fun. Yeah,
That was dope. That was cool.
that was a cool twist. Yep. Well played.
Favorite line of the episode, Mr. Spock, you're the most cold-blooded man I've ever known. Why, thank you, Doctor. So yeah, I do feel like the episode falls apart in the last act with the last couple acts, maybe whatever however you want to parse it out.
However you want to, yeah.
Once Cogley disappears and Jamie's supposed to show up but doesn't, and
yeah, that just feels weird. I was forgiving in the moment because I was like, oh yeah, at least we now meet Finney, and that's cool to save that actor for the end and have that actor be decent, and that was that was fun. But then it sort of devolves into the fight scene, and we don't see half the characters again, and the very, very elaborate thing of excluding heartbeats to prove that there is another person on the ship. It was a bit drawn out for no real purpose other than to, draw it out and make it a thing and build that tension, even though we all pretty much assumed, like, oh no, the guy's going to be somewhere.
Yeah.
We just have to find him. And apparently we can locate where that sound is coming from, so I don't know.
Which also, by the way, if you were faking your death and you were at a star base,
yeah.
It would probably be time to get off the ship, or it would have been well past time.
Yeah, it
to
would
get
have
off
been
the
smart,
ship and
like,
hide someplace, maybe.
But that would have been hard because there's like hundreds of people in terms of crew still on that ship, so you'd have to slip out from the engine room where there's not a lot of people through all the corridors. So I get that he would stay behind somewhere, and wait it out. But at the same time, I also realized, like, if you can ask the computer at the end, where's that heartbeat coming from? And she says, oh, deck B, whatever the fuck. And he says, okay, close that shit down. You could have just asked the computer to exclude the sensors on the bridge. And you would have gotten rid of all of the heartbeats at once without going around with a microphone. There were easier ways of doing this shit.
Yep. But they had to have the dramatic effect.
Exactly, and at that point you're like, oh, come on, like, why are we taking so long to get to the point?
Well, speaking of taking long,
give me some more wrestling with Kirk's ripped shirt, like always, like that I can deal with more of that than I can just wait around for something I am fully expecting to work out. Like, that's not how tension works. So,
speaking of taking a long time to get to a point, one of the instances of that I love in this episode is when Ariel is like, can we just stop all the, can we just cut off we understand Kirk is very praised. Like, he's had many medals.
Yeah.
And Cogley's like, actually, I think we should keep playing it. I think we should keep playing it.
I think this is important.
And then even he's like, all right, well, that's enough. After like 3 more minutes of it, it's just, and Kirk's just sitting there like, dope, like, that's right.
I do think that came like a little quick. Like, it seemed very petty of just, I want to continue the tape, and then cutting it off like a half a minute in. Where it's like, you said 3 words, honey. Come on. You could have stalled it out for the full time at the very least.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it did make sense because it was fun to hear all of the medals, but it was also,
and we still didn't hear all of them.
No. They got to keep something,
Yeah.
in their pocket in case they ever want to make up another medal and be like, oh, but that wasn't in the court record, and fans are like that,
right? Yeah,
we would know.
Like, oh, well, that means that in between episode 2 and 3, he must have gotten the Purple Dick Award somehow. I mean,
yeah, exactly. What happened in that episode? It must have been worth watching because he got a medal.
Says here he got the Urethra of Valor. I don't know. It's
I love how we always end up with very specific anatomy. Yeah.
I was gonna for a second. I was gonna go with the toupee of temerity, but
that would have been more fun because the urethra of honor or whatever the fuck that just made me think of, like, what is a way I can make a sounding pun with the microphone and everything. Like there's a joke in here, and I need to get to it. But I'm just throwing that out there to yeah. God.
You're throwing it out to God? Well, we are doing this.
God can make that pun for me, and we're doing it for his sake, really.
Yeah, that's what
God
I was
needs
say.
to watch Star Trek, and if he can have an extra podcast to motivate him to do so, then
you don't think he's watching all these episodes and he's a fan? I mean, this episode
I
came
think he's
out,
watching along with us for the first time.
and the show is still
I feel
out.
very close to Christ in that sense, where it's like we're in the same boat.
Yeah,
He's been busy for a couple millennia, and now it's like, oh right, let me watch that show from the '60s and
Yeah.
start at the beginning and go all the way through.
There was a
Wait for our episode every week, so you know he doesn't go forward too fast. He has other stuff to do.
Sure. I'm
sure.
I'm comfortable with all of this. One of my favorite jokes was from Late Night with Conan O'Brien, where it was the Vatican had said the world will not end when we switch over to the year 2000. And Conan gets up.
That's cool of them.
And Conan gets up in his monologue and says, the Vatican has come out and said the world will not end when the clock, hits 12, supposedly, reportedly, according to them, because even God wants to know, wants to watch those Star Wars prequels or something. And I just cackled.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Oh, Y2K. That was great. I was watching a Belgian show recently, truly a comfort show. It's called the 90s for Teens, which is basically he did the 80s for teens previously, and he just sits around with a bunch of different kids in their bedroom, and this sounds creepy now that I say it like that, but
it does.
Like in their rooms, and he shows them clips of
Is his name Dan Schneider?
of a specific year. No, a different guy. Belgian, as I said.
I don't know what Dan Schneider
Flemish
is.
dude. He's not Flemish, I'm fairly certain. Schneider does not sound Flemish.
Okay.
But anyways, they go year by year and go through news and culture and music and movies and everything. So at the end of the season, they're like, well, everyone was fucking tense because Y2K, because we don't know what's gonna happen like once the clock strikes midnight. So they count down, because they count down every episode to midnight, and then it's a new episode, like, oh, happy new year, whatever. And they do that, and he's like, well, do you want to know what happens next? And yeah, what ended up happening with Y2K? Did the world end? And he's like, no, that's for the Knots for Teens. That's gonna be next season. I can't do that. And those kids are just there like, but I want to know. And it was so cute, because I was just like, guys, you're here. Nothing. The nuclear war shit didn't happen. We didn't blow up. Nothing. You're fine. The tech works. We fixed it.
Look, when I was a kid, our fear was that the banks would shut down and the computers would stop working.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't like, I don't know. I don't feel like anybody. I didn't hear anybody talking about nukes or anything. It was just like,
I mean,
oh no.
I'm sure that was in the conversation at some point.
Now, I had an uncle who was growing potatoes and beans in his backyard, and said,
wow,
he said that he had a friend who told him that he had a friend who said that they had he worked for the government, and they had a computer that was hooked up to a computer in all these different places, and the computer was
part
one
of the
computer,
entire grid.
It was one computer that controlled all of them, and it was called the Beast. And which is one of the reasons that I howl every time I watch that one terrible, or that one wonderful scene in the terrible movie Blues Brothers 2000, where Daryl Hammond is talking to a militia group and says, now the federal government's got a computer. And that computer is hooked up to a computer in Jerusalem and Moscow. And I just crack up, because I'm like,
that was a literal
thing that I heard in my life.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm glad they crowdsourced their rumors. Yeah. Oh,
I'm
delightful.
sure they just got on the
I
internet.
still haven't seen
so.
2000, but I've not heard good things, so
It's terrible.
I've heard.
The first one's
So
great.
I never gave it a shot.
Never watched the
I've
second
also heard. I have watched the first one. Eventually, yeah. You pretty much because of you, probably. Yeah.
one. Yeah. You have
Maybe
watched
half
it?
because
or
of my
you
ex.
will
I
watch
have.
it?
No, I have.
Oh, you have?
I've seen it a couple years ago, I think.
Okay.
It's been a while.
All right.
I was still together with my ex. I think she also recommended it, and then I
Yeah.
eventually watched it.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty
we
sure you
have a
probably
conversation
repressed it because I didn't give it 5 stars. So on Letterboxd. So you were probably like, oh, how am I going to be friends with Effie from
No.
now on? I'll forget this part.
I'm going to tell you a secret. I don't ever go on the Letterboxd. I have no idea what you say about any movie on Letterboxd because I don't read it.
How dare you? I write long ass reviews every single time.
Yeah.
Not always. I recently did like a 2-line review because I was like, well, this movie aged like milk, non-pasteurized from just a fine bottle from 1987. It was, it aged exactly like that.
Yeah.
But that explains something because sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm not sure Dave will be happy because he recommended this movie and
Well, the thing is about like here's the thing though is like when I have like seen or heard you say talk shit about a movie I recommended to you, I feel like it's just like, and I am usually right. We talk about it and like you just didn't get the context of it or something. Like there was some like
on occasion, yeah.
where it's just like, no, but like this and this, and you're like, oh, well, that makes a lot more sense. Or like
that does happen with the episodes a lot, yeah.
also like I like
it helps
movies-
having rewatched things.
Yeah, well, I also like I like movies that it just so happens that a lot of my favorite movies are very like culty movies, like cult classic kind of movies.
Yeah.
So like I'll be like, oh, here's the obscure cultural context for this film, and you're like, well, that makes perfect sense.
That adds to the experience.
Yeah.
Now I get part of it.
And
That
I
happens,
forget. Yeah, I forget
that you
like,
need that context. Yeah.
you live in a completely different country, and most people in this country wouldn't understand what the hell is going on with the movies that I like.
Yeah.
So it's just like, sometimes it takes
happens.
a little,
I get that.
a little nudging.
Absolutely. No, because I think the Age Like Milk review was Revenge of the Nerds, where I was just sitting like,
Oh yeah.
ooh
No,
boy. Ooh.
it is not a politically correct film.
No.
Revenge of the
no.
Nerds is like they should all be in jail. For
Oh,
real.
yes. Oh, absolutely.
There are no heroes here.
No, except the Deus Ex Machina big black guy fraternity, I guess, at the end. They're sort of the heroes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a stereotype still, but it was funny at least. Like some of the of those things were funny, but not just so many things that were very much not funny.
Well,
I was like, John Goodman is in this? Okay.
Yeah.
Did he have a career before this already, or
barely.
I figured.
But one of the great things about like, yes, it is a stereotype, the big black guys and the fraternity thing, but at the same time, like the reason I appreciate that is because you would think that any minority group who saw another minority group being bullied and hurt would stand up, and I love that they did the right thing there. And like, there's so much of the movie that is like really great.
It was funny how they turned around. Like that was a part I didn't necessarily have an issue with. Like, of course, the jokey line of like, oh, we're I don't remember the exact line at the end where it is very much the we're so oppressed as nerds. Where it's like, yes, sure you are. But there's just a bunch of jokes in between where I was like, ooh, that aged poorly. Ooh.
Yeah,
ooh,
yeah.
ooh,
There are tons of things that aged poorly. But at the same time, like, I was a kid.
Somehow anti-black racism, not the biggest problem with this movie. Somehow it's the Asian shit.
Yeah, that one's pretty rough.
Yeah,
that's pretty rough.
Oof.
But you know what? Like, even in the state of how things were back in the 90s when I was a kid, like, in the school I was at, like the black
Mm-hmm.
kids weren't getting bullied. They were like sports heroes because I went to a private
jocks,
school.
yeah.
And so like the black kids weren't the kids who were getting beat up. It was the kids who wouldn't do sports because it was a private Christian school. And they were like, you got to show
fun.
school spirit. And so like I saw,
How
like,
dare you not be into the football?
Yeah.
That was also part of the thing where I was like, this is a very American like divide in general, because we don't have as much of the jock culture over here. Like, yeah, sure, you're cool if you do sports and you're strong and you should, like, those were the cool kids, just so happened to be, but they just did well in PE, and outside of that they were pretty poor students. But there wasn't as much of a hero worship because there weren't school teams necessarily for sports.
Yeah.
That was a thing you do outside of school, that, you know, you could have your hobbies and do whatever sport you like.
Yeah.
And if you're a teenage boy doing dance classes like me, then, you know, you're probably not high on the list regardless.
Yeah.
But it's not a collective thing of like, oh, school spirit. That's just, the school spirit was mostly just elitist bullshit because we were a very old and very prestigious school, and ugh.
Yeah. But like we literally got a coach who got heavily reprimanded for basically ignoring a kid. It was a, you know, skinny white kid with big glasses. He was like, yeah, you're fine. And the kid had asthma. And like, he was making us do the thing where we all run in a line and the kid at the end of the line has to run up to the top of the line. And the kid couldn't make it. And he was like literally like falling over and like wheezing. And like, the coach is like, get up, boy, get up, you know. And
that's not motivating. He's literally in medical fucking pain.
So like, yeah, it was a weird environment.
I can imagine. Yeah.
So like the Nerds movies actually spoke to me in a weird kind of way. I was like, yes,
I get that, especially at the time. there is a sort of marked difference, especially in high school, of the cool kids and the jocks and being just the kid who reads comics.
Yeah, and this was middle school for me, so it was like I was the Star Trek kid, I was the comic book kid. I wore those things on my sleeve. I had no problem saying this is me.
As you should have.
And I got the shit kicked out of me every day.
Because violence is the answer. Long live the U.S.
Until my parents just finally said, we're taking you out of the school.
Which is a very wise thing to do. I've been there.
Yeah. So it was part of it really made sense for me on the Nerds movies, but looking at it now, I go, ooh, they did some stuff. They did some stuff on those movies.
It is very much there's some redeeming qualities, and there's just a lot of, like, I get the gag that the nerd happens to be really good at sex, and the joke at the end of like, yeah, all we do is think about sex. We don't think about sports.
Let's just
that's
gloss
funny.
over the fact
If
that he
it
just
weren't-
raped her.
Exactly. If it weren't like real fucking bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof.
Indeed.
Like, you always fall in love with your rapist if he's really good in bed, right? God.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, to be fair, maybe you do if you've been dating the rapist she's been dating, you know, dating
Yeah,
for
fair enough. That
you know,
dude was also...
he was skis ball. Like,
absolutely gross in so many ways.
like maybe she's just had so much trauma that she might, but
Maybe that's how she you know, sees love at that point in her life, where it's like, oh, but this one actually cares about my pleasure and is also massively fucked up, but that's what love is, I guess.
But it's the 80s.
No real, yeah, exactly. There's nothing better out there for me.
it's 1984 and I'm still trading up.
God,
That's depressing.
he'll get a job when he's older. Yeah. God.
Yeah, well, that is a good point.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, no, that was an interesting movie. Absolutely not what we were supposed to be reviewing.
Not at all.
But who cares?
Not at all. By the way, this is the first episode in which the name Starfleet and Starfleet Command were used.
I noticed. I noticed.
Isn't
'cause
that
I was
exciting?
like, ooh, that's a thing I recognize. I've heard this wasn't there yet. So yeah, and those stuck. So that's a good sign that
Yeah.
they're not constantly changed anymore.
Yeah, it's exciting. By the way,
there.
Commodore Stone is the highest ranking officer portrayed by an African Canadian actor to appear in the original series. He also commanded a starship at one time, as noted in the episode.
Cool. Yeah.
And you know what I loved about it? They didn't say anything about it. They were just like,
No.
he's there.
I was, like, from my very
He's in
privileged 21st century perspective, I was just like, yeah, that's a black actor. That's not a big deal. Oh, wait, it was the 60s. Good of you to mention
Yeah.
it. That was a big deal. Yeah.
But I do feel like if it had been made today,
They would have pointed it the fuck
Yeah.
out, like,
He would
I've
have-
had to overcome so many of my... And it's like, yeah, you had a tough time getting there, but sometimes we just need the I wasn't almost beat to death by police officers type of story
Right.
about a black person succeeding.
but then like on Star Trek, they would have been like, he's like, do you know how hard it's been for me to work to this position? And he's a black guy, and you're like, oh, because he's a black guy? But this is so far in the future. And then he's like, because I'm Rigelian. And they're like, oh,
Oh, subtle.
I'm Illyrian, right? I'm not supposed to be in the Starfleet. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, sure.
Thought that was for something
Sorry
else.
Yep, no, that was my own prejudice. Whoopsie daisy.
Like, no, I know how this goes. And it's supposed to be not because of a fictional thing.
No.
But okay.
No.
I'm
Okay.
good with that, yeah. He's Rigelian.
It happens to the best of us.
They don't like that his dick can blink. And
Yeah, that would be something we discriminate about. Like,
Yeah.
circumcision has been a hot button topic
Right.
for many, many decades, centuries.
right. So it's just, it's the future. Like, no.
Yeah.
No, it's not because of that's the color of my
We've
skin. That's
overcome
racist.
certain differences. It's other differences we are still hung up about.
Yeah, that's always the case.
Of course, we'll find something new. We'll redefine whiteness as human, I guess, and then be racist against everyone else.
You're gonna love Star Trek 6. We're like,
I'm looking forward to
like
it.
the crew is sitting around with like a group of Klingons at the dinner table, and one of them refers to human rights, and then one of the Klingons says, "You should hear yourselves, human rights." Like, it's like, oh shit, she's got a point, y'all.
Yep. That
Yeah.
works. Oh, that's good.
I love Star Trek 6. It's my favorite of the original series movies, and not everyone agrees with me. So
I figured as much. I was like, no one is gonna be like, oh yeah, the sixth one is the best in the franchise. But I'm glad you are on that island.
I know a few people. A few people.
Good. You got to find your people. I'm looking forward to it. We'll get there eventually.
Yeah. Anyway, maybe we should wrap this up.
Probably. We've talked about a lot of stuff that wasn't the episode, so I'm sure we're due for time.
Me and Matt's last episode, we went on some adventures. We didn't talk about Star Trek a lot, so
I might have to give that one a listen because, let's be real, I'll forget all about the spoilers by the time I
Sure.
get to whatever episode you were supposed to be discussing.
yeah. I mean, we weren't talking about it in any specific episode except for maybe like we had some feedback on 410, but it was fun. We talked about a lot of weird stuff.
Sounds good. That's the best episodes.
Yeah. But yeah, if you guys want to write in and give us more content so that we're more focused somehow, Star
that
Trek
would be a thing.
Star Trek UCast@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter or the Gram, I think is what the kids are calling it these days.
I'm
we're
there. I've heard of it.
YouTube. Yeah. Are you over
We're on
you're the
YouTube?
Gram. Yeah.
Should I subscribe to the YouTube? I didn't know it was there.
Yeah, we're on YouTube. I'll send you a link.
I'll give that a Google.
Yeah. Give it a goog, as
Yeah,
the young
I mean,
kids
I
say.
use Ecosia, but sure, a search engine of choice.
Right. Type it into the search bar on Facebook, as the old people say.
The Facebook, yes. No,
Yeah.
I don't have Facebook anymore, so I can't do that.
I know.
It's a hard time.
It is sad. I do miss seeing you on there.
I mean, I didn't do much on there. I just
You didn't.
occasionally commented, I guess.
You really just liked my shit.
lurked.
That's what I like to see. Is like, yeah, there's Effie.
Fair. But I still like your shit. I still like your shit on the gram. So
The gram. God, I sound like a douche.
Her grandpa's. It's fine. Grandma Effie doesn't understand the interweb anymore. She's trying her hardest. How do I get on the gram? Does this button get me on the gram? Anyway, yeah, we should call it, shouldn't we? I don't know where my brain went just now.
That was terrifying.
You're welcome.
Joel on True, live long and prosper, and as always,
eat a dick, people. Eat a dick.
It just sounds like you're saying eat a dick, people, and I'm like, what is a dick, people? What is a?
I mean,
are they just like dicks that have legs, and they're just like that's all they are? They're just like a more.
I feel like dick people are the people who voted in our election most recently.
Oh, getting political.
Those could. Yeah. Oh, we're there. But I also need to really go to the bathroom, so I shouldn't get too political. It's fine.
Fair enough. I mean, same difference, really. Like,
yeah. Asshole people, dick people. Lots of just weird anatomy, body parts on legs, running around, voting in our elections.
Cocks.
Yeah. That's truly what I suspect is most of our voting base. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Well. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Roberson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.